Hello, hello, everybody. It is 7 p.m. Central, so you know what time that is. It's time for How to Win at Everything. I am here with my esteemed guest, Hallie Avolio. Wait, Hallie. Sorry. And here's the thing: I've said your name to a million people at this point. Hallie Avolio, and
You
and
got
I
it
asked,
perfect.
thank
Perfect.
you, because I had Mike Paterano pronounce it for me like the first time I met you. Like, wait, how we pronouncing her name? And so we have Hallie Avolio here with us this evening, and I'm going to start us off, Hallie, with my quick intro, and then we are going to get started.
Sounds great.
Have you ever wondered why you struggle to find success or fulfillment or lasting happiness? It's probably because your default wiring is set to lose. The How to Win at Everything podcast looks at real people who have struggled with the same insecurities, fears, doubts, and expectations and found a way to succeed. Why? Their brains are rewired for success. We dive into their thought patterns to show you how to rewire your own brain to win at everything.
All righty, thank you so much, everyone. So, Hallie, you are you are sassy AF, and I want to before we get started, good. I want to have you kind of bring some of that to the table for us. So, tell us what you do. Tell us why you're so awesome and special, and why sassy AF.
Great question. By the way, I have to applaud the intro because I've never actually seen that before. I don't know, maybe I
Nice.
missed that in previous How to Win at Everything shows, but I love that. That was super cool.
Well, thank you, thank you. That took like 6 months of my life with my no
Well, well
skills.
done. Bravo, Kelly. You did
Well,
awesome.
thank you, thank you.
So let's see. I don't even know where to begin with that question, except I will say that I lived a good chunk of my life feeling like I had to fit in a box. I guess that's the
Hmm.
best way to say it. I felt like I had to live up to everyone else's expectations. I
Hmm.
also felt like I was always the odd woman out, odd girl out. I was
Yeah,
tall, I was awkward,
yeah.
I had big hair, I was loud. Like I never felt like I fit in. And
Right.
I shrunk because of it. Honestly.
Mm,
Like
mm.
I would shrink myself down physically, emotionally, mentally, and I would do anything that I could to blend in, to be, part of the crowd.
Yeah.
And at some point, a couple of years ago, I realized that by doing that for so long, I was really, how do I say this? I was cheating myself. I
Mm,
was cheating myself of who I truly am at my core.
mhm,
And I was pissed off about it. And I was so
mm.
pissed off about it that I started to do all sorts of crazy toxic things, toxic
Uh-oh.
behaviors,
Yeah,
hang out with
yeah.
toxic people, etc., and put myself in a situation where I wasn't happy with the person I was then becoming. And I
Mm,
had to make a choice. I had to decide, look, am I going to stay in this resentful, angry space?
mhm.
Or am I going to really step up, evaluate who I am, figure out who I am, and show up who I am? And that's what I decided to do. And what I discovered is that I am sassy as F. I don't know if we can say the full words here,
You be
but
my guest.
I am sassy as fuck. And I love it. I love who I am. And I'm also totally great if I'm not for everyone. Like
Right.
that is so cool because you know what? There's what, almost 8 billion people on this planet. We don't all have to be for everyone.
That's
And
right.
that is totally cool.
Somebody
So
likes it.
it's all good. Like as long as I like me and I believe in me and I show up with integrity and authenticity,
That's right.
then I believe that the right people will be attracted to me. And those are the people that I will be able to serve and to help and to guide and to teach. And that is truly my mission.
I like it. I like it. So you said a bunch of stuff that I want to dive in on
Yeah.
right up front. So um you started off you're shrinking back. First off, for the audience, you are 5'9"?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you are tall. I
Yeah.
mean, tallish. I mean,
How tall are you,
obviously
Kelly?
I'm 5'6", so everyone's tall in Kelly's world. Uh, uh, I always would imagine that that would be something that would be empowering and that sort of thing. But I've heard you talk about this before on other shows. So that was a reason to shrink back. You're loud. You're not fitting in. Those are reasons to shrink back. Um, what do you think it is about those things about not fitting in for you that or what about those things made you not feel like made you feel like you didn't fit in?
I just always felt like I stood out. And, I actually believe that standing out is a great thing. I mean, if
Yeah.
you look at the people that stand out, the people that are, successful, I mean, look at professional athletes or,
Mhm.
celebrities, they're
Mhm.
often not people that fit into a crowd, right? They
Mhm.
are
Mhm.
out there doing their thing, being themselves. But, maybe it was a byproduct of the kind of upper middle class neighborhood that I grew up in that
Okay.
was very much like cookie cutter kind of situation, or so I perceived it to be. And
Yeah.
I always just felt like it wasn't me. And I didn't really know who I was. But when I tried to be like everybody else, I just felt more and more awkward and uncomfortable.
I think that's a really, really important and big part because one of the things that you also mentioned here was that you were resentful. So let me just ask, who was that directed toward? Who got that anger?
A lot of it went toward my husband, to be honest.
Okay.
Hmm. Hmm. And,
Was
it, I think it was externally and outwardly toward my husband, but internally it was actually a reflection of myself.
okay.
So I
Yeah.
was actually, even though I couldn't articulate it at the time, it was much easier for me to point fingers and place blame on my husband
Yeah.
for who, by the way, I just want to give a big shout out to him because he is my very best friend. We've been together 21 years, married 17 and a half. And I'm so grateful that we've been able to work through our shit. Thank God. And I'm so grateful for him every day because honestly, he's my rock. He's my best friend. He is the person that I am meant and intended to be with. And I've learned,
Go on.
I know. I know it's schmaltzy and I can't help myself. But if I'm gonna be honest, if we're gonna tell the other side of the story where I was like so angry at him and pissed off,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
was, but here's the thing is that at the end of the day, I realized the person that I was angry with was myself because I wasn't being true to me. And when you're not true
Mm.
to yourself, that manifests all sorts of crazy stuff.
See, now I was interested in that because, in coaching, we start to get this idea of like, hey, you start to understand where your power lies, and your power lies in choice, and you're whether you're conscious of it or not, you're typically choosing your environment, you're choosing your behaviors, you're choosing your circumstances. So when you say like you're angry at your husband, it's like, oh man, I feel bad for that guy because a lot of that is stuff that maybe he can make a space for, but can't really make you learn about yourself and that sort of thing. So
Right.
what was the turning point for you? What changed that made you be able to say, "Oh, wait a minute. This is about me feeling empowered, me making a choice." Like what happened? What was the catalyst there?
Well, the catalyst was really after many, many, I guess years. I was going to say months, but it was more like 2 years of us really being in a bad place. I was in a bad place. I had let my relationship with my husband suffer. It was also creating rifts with my children.
Mhm. Mhm.
I wasn't taking care of my health. I wasn't sleeping well. My hormones were out of control. I had gained
Yeah.
weight. I felt awful about myself. And the catalyst was a moment when I went to go shopping for a new dress. And I was standing in this dressing room looking for new clothes, staring at myself in the mirror and just hating every part of my being because nothing
Yeah.
fit. I felt completely out of control of
Yeah.
my life. And of course, it wasn't the fact that I couldn't find something to wear, but that was just this very vivid moment of like, oh my gosh, what am I doing with my life? And I had a
Mhm.
complete breakdown. And it took me maybe 48 hours from that point to come to terms with myself and say, look, self, you have a choice. Here's your choice, right? My choice was to either continue self destructing and going
Mhm.
down this path of not taking care of my health, my relationships, etc., or my choice was to woman up
Mhm.
and figure out how to make myself better. And
Yeah.
I decided that I was done with my own bullshit and I was ready to do what I had to do. And I didn't know what it was at that point, by the way.
Right. Right.
I immediately went to, well, I have to lose weight and I have to take care of my health, right? That was like
Okay.
my, because those are like the easy
Yeah, it
answers.
was easy to see.
That's
Yeah.
that's easy to see, right? But what I found, what I realized is that it wasn't so much my physical body, it was here. And I
Hmm.
really had to shift my mental energy and my mental wellness, and I had to start learning who I was, but I also had to start unlearning patterns and behaviors
Yeah.
and bad choices I had been making. And that is the work that really had to be done, and that's what I dove into. And in doing so, I learned that I have a passion and um, just capacity to really help others do the same work.
I like that. I like that a lot. Um, because of so let me just say first, as a host, as a coach, as a human being, one of the things that I appreciate the most are people who are self-aware because it like cuts my work in half. Like it's a lot to get someone to get past everyone else's expectations, everyone else's view, everyone else's like idea of who someone is in their own head and get to who I really am. So I got to tell you, in that sense, you are such a rarity and such a beautiful thing to see because that's awesome. That is so awesome. Now, I will dive into this, and you can talk as little or as much about this as you want to. You talked about the toxic behaviors, the toxic relationships, toxic people. Uh, what did that look like? How did that manifest itself?
Well, on the outside, it looked like everything was just fine, by the way.
Right.
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 So, I wasn't going to admit that anything was wrong. But what
Yeah.
happened was it was a lot of escapism. And it was a lot of me just wanting to literally escape my family. It was
Yeah.
going out and drinking too much and
Mhm.
constantly, on my phone. For example, we would have like family movie night and I would just be like texting with people during family movie night. My
Mhm.
kids and my husband would be watching a movie and they're like, hey, mom, don't you like the movie? I'm like, oh, yeah. Uh huh. Not paying
Mhm.
attention at all,
Mhm.
constantly fantasizing about how can I get out? How can I go
Mhm.
be with other people? How can I be anywhere but here? Because
Mm.
I felt like I was caught in this hamster wheel. I felt like
Yeah.
I was stuck. You know, the movie Groundhog Day? That's what I felt
Yeah.
like. It was like, oh my God, I have to wake up to this
Yeah.
same damn day every single day. And it's not funny because I know a lot of people still live in this space.
Yeah.
And, these are the people that I want to help. And I want to just give them hope. Like, you can make the choice to get out of that hamster wheel. You can make the choice to put yourself first and to prioritize your own needs. And I will tell you that today, and I did a Facebook Live earlier today where I was just talking about choice and manifesting and how we can really stand in our own power. And I love my life, Kelly. I
That is
literally
beautiful.
love my life every single day. And yes, it's a pandemic. Yes, I'm in California and there's a lockdown. Yes, I homeschool my kids. I love my life
That's
with all
beautiful.
of that, because I choose to.
Hmm. Let me ask you this. So I want to fast forward back to the point where 48 hours after the dressing room breakdown, you come to grips with this idea of maybe physical wellness first. What's the first thing you did? What was your first step toward like getting stuff together?
I signed up for a weight loss program.
Okay. Okay. Once you did that, was it successful? How did that work? Like, was your that pain you were stepping out of enough to kind of get that going for you, or how did that work out?
It was successful for me because I was committed, but I'll tell you what was the difference because throughout my life, and this is probably true for many of the people watching, we've all done weight loss programs. Well, many of us have multiple times, multiple times again and again and again. It's like the
Mhm.
definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting
Mhm.
different results.
Mhm.
Right. So here was the difference. This was the turning point, is that this time when I did the weight loss program, I also started doing mindset work and
Nice.
and I started listening to podcasts, but I also started doing personal development reading. And I love reading, but for a long time, especially when I was in kind of like those darkest points, I didn't read because I wasn't really concerned about taking care
Right.
of my mental wellness. Right. But the
Yep.
first book that I read once I started that journey was The Compound Effect.
Hmm.
And I absolutely love that book. I think it's so impactful. And I don't know if you've read it, but
No. No.
and why am I blanking on? Oh, Darren Hardy. Sorry, I was like, who wrote that book? The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. I highly recommend it. It's a very simple read, and the main message of the book is small sustainable actions over time equal radical results.
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean, that's it, right? You don't have to make this, you don't have to move mountains in one day. But if you can make small actions every single day
Right.
over a certain amount of time, you're going to see those radical results you're looking for. And that was exactly the message I needed to hear. So then I was kind of hooked and became a personal development junkie.
It's tough once you get into it. It really starts to kind of feed on itself, doesn't it? 'Cause
Totally.
it's like
Totally.
you start seeing like, oh wait, and I can change this, and wait, I have access to that. It is a beautiful thing.
And I
Uh,
discovered podcasts. I'd never heard a podcast before in my life. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's all this information out there about like, where did this come from? How did I not know about this? It was
right.
amazing.
I got to tell you, I've always been into reading. I've always been into information. Like I am a little bit of a just information junkie. I like to consider myself kind of a data file. Like if it's information, I'm in it. I want to know. And when I started to learn about the human subconscious and about the power that we actually have, like in and of ourselves, it was like I was gone. I was hooked. Um, so okay, so we're gonna move your story up. You're on this road. Well, first let me ask: the success that you experience, health wise and mindset wise, how did that kind of spring you into what you're doing now? Because right now you're coaching women, you're helping with people with their businesses. You're podcasting too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Yep.
so you got like a million irons in the fire. How did that initial success transition into basically you being Superwoman?
Well, I've always been Superwoman. Let's be real about that.
Okay,
We
right,
already
right.
talked about Beyonce, right?
That's
Channeling my
right.
inner Beyonce. So
That's what we're all doing.
that's right. Um, let's see. When I started on my health journey initially and my mindset journey, I started sharing and I leveraged Facebook. I mean, it wasn't with any
Hmm.
intent. Like, I didn't have an intent to build a business or, I had some ideas. Like, I was like, oh, maybe I could do something. Maybe I could get aligned with, a product or something like that. But
Hmm.
really, I
Hmm.
just wanted to share my story. And if I'm being 100% honest with you, a lot of it was stroking my own ego. I am a Leo. I think we've talked about this before, but I was really excited for myself. And I'm like, look, I'm making some massive changes. I want to share this with people because
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
really great. So I would post some pictures, I would share my story. And as I was sharing my story, I started getting connected with women, people I knew, other moms, women I knew in my community. And they were like, what are you doing? What are you doing that's different?
Hmm.
What's shifting? And so the more I started sharing, the more I started having people open up to me and sharing their stories. And
Hmm.
what I realized is that there's a lot of women out there, probably men too, but I was really talking to women that were kind of like, I don't know if you want to call it like in the closet, like outside, it looks like everything is great.
Yeah,
My Facebook life looks great. I'm so together. I've got it all down. But behind the scenes, we're drinking too much at night and we're not taking
yeah.
care of ourselves and we're crying ourselves to sleep and we're waking up feeling like, oh my gosh, another day of this same damn hellhole, you
Hmm.
know? And too many women were in that space. And so I was thinking about it. And the more I thought about it, the more I kind of pondered this over the next several months. I was like, I feel like I have a calling and an opportunity to help other women
Hmm.
really take care of themselves in a better way, in a way that's different than just losing weight and coming
Yeah.
up with a fitness program.
So again, uh, me dealing with people who are on all like levels of this journey already, it is so beautiful to see where you are and how much, um, hearing where you come from, and then to kind of see it manifest itself into like you're kind of a butterfly of a person at this point because you got like so much going on. How at this point? So you get into this role of, hey, I'm this new person. I'm developing into this new person. How does that change your relationships with your husband, with friends, family, anybody around you? How does that started to shift things? How does that start to shift things? Because I think one of the foundational pieces is that we should be able to see this growth in how others are responding. So how does that change for you?
Well, I'll tell you, I want to share one story that was really a pivotal moment for me. And it was a night when my husband and I were going to my best friend's 40th birthday party. And she lives
Mhm,
about an hour away from me. So we had to drive, we had a babysitter for the kids, and it was just the two of us. And we're driving and we're talking. And this was like right when I was, formulating some ideas about my business and how to kind of get started and what I could do with it. And we're just brainstorming. And I remember we got to the party a little bit early and we're sitting in the car, and I just felt really overwhelmed. And I felt like, I don't know if I can do this. And he looked at me and he was like, you can do anything you want to do because
mm,
you are powerful and I support you 100%. And I
I
just
like that.
remember the tears in my eyes. And I was like, oh shit, I'm going to ruin my makeup before I go into this party. But I didn't. It was all good. But I just felt so supported by him, and it was such a 180 from where we had come from, and it was beautiful. It made me feel so supported and so loved, and just reminded me of how much work we had done together to get to where we were at that point. It's gotten even
Mhm.
stronger. And that was about 2.5 years ago, that night. So it's only gotten better from there. And I just want to share also, because you mentioned, I do a
Yeah.
lot of things. I
Mhm.
do a lot of things, but when I started, I had no freaking what I was doing. And I was just like, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. It was like literally like throwing spaghetti at the wall, just seeing what stuck.
I like that. I like that a lot. Um, Let me dive in a little bit, if you don't mind, with the relationship with you and your husband, because
Yep.
this, the closest relationships are going to be the ones where we're going to probably see a lot of the frustration as well as a lot of the growth immediately. Was your husband making that space for you initially, or did he have to learn to do that, or how did that work? Like, was it a case where you felt like he was? I know you felt like he was a part of the trappings of family and lifestyle, family lifestyle. But was he making a space for you to grow, and it was just you that maybe wasn't, adding yourself or going into that role, or was it a case that he had to learn to do that?
Before we got to this point, so before that night, sitting in the car before my best friend's birthday party,
Mhm,
we had been through a lot together. We'd gone through a
mhm,
lot of work, we'd done a lot of therapy, we'd had a lot of
right,
conversations, and I had revealed to him a lot of the things that I'd held inside me for far too long in our relationship, which were the things that were causing the resentment and the anger.
mhm,
The things where I felt like he wasn't showing up and he wasn't
mhm, mhm,
participating and he wasn't holding space for me. And because we had had those conversations and worked through them over many, many months, talking, doing
mhm,
the therapy, putting in the work, showing our commitment to one another. By the time we got to this point, we were all in, committed both to the new version of me, and it was really a new version of him.
mhm,
And he
mhm,
he always says that even though it was the hardest years of our life, when we call it the bullshit period, and we both talk about, this is like the hardest time of our life, but that we had to go through it to get to where we are today.
sure,
And he also says that that's when he really became an adult, is when he went through that and he had to face some of his fears,
yep,
face some of his challenges. We had to do that together, and we
yeah,
had to really grow up. And it's funny because we already had our three kids at that point.
yeah,
It wasn't like we're 25 years old. I mean, I'm
yeah,
41 now, and um, it was just one of those moments. So we did do a lot of growth together, as we have always done, and we did hold space for each other. And he is by far, like I said, my strongest partner, my biggest cheerleader, and just somebody that I can bounce any idea off of, all of it. But you also
yeah,
asked about other relationships,
yeah,
and I have had other relationships that have not survived my growth because those people weren't in a growth space as well. And it's okay. We have to accept that that's how life is. And
mhm.
there's no ill will or anger. It's kind of, I've grown in a certain way that's created space, with other people. So it just kind of is.
I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that, and thanks so much for being honest and vulnerable and kind of opening that up for us, because it is a case that a lot of times there's a measure of guilt and fear that we feel from our own growth. Where we're saying, I don't want people to think that I'm too good. That I think I'm too good for them, or that I'm changing and I'm becoming the bougie and uptight and blah blah blah. So I really think that that's a beautiful thing that you've been able to kind of come into your own and even realize that, hey, it's not that this is a bad thing or anything like that. Just sometimes people do outgrow each other, because
Right.
if you're going left and I'm going right, we're not on the same page anymore.
And that's
Um,
okay, right? It's like,
and right, and it's okay, and it's not
yeah,
bad.
right. It's not bad. It's part of life. And I think sometimes we kind of misconstrue that the one person going left and the other person going right is a reflection of a breakup or something
Yeah,
bad happens.
yeah,
Not necessarily. It can be, but sometimes it's just because, it's like you go, there's two roads
yes,
and
right.
I went one way, you went the other, and that's
That's right.
fine.
And I'm not blaming you for yours. I don't feel angry
Exactly.
at you for yours, but I am happy with mine. So
Exactly. I mean, I have to stand in my authentic truth. And
exactly. Well,
if I'm showing up every day in my authentic truth or being sassy as fuck, then I'm good. I'm good with me. And if it doesn't align with somebody else, I'm always happy to have a conversation about it. I'm always happy to open
yeah,
that door to be like, hey, let's talk about this. Is there a way that we can come together? And if not,
yeah.
then let's just say
It's
that's
okay.
okay. It's all
It's
good.
okay.
It's okay.
Uh, isn't it nice to kind of have that that sense of okayness? I know for me, growing up the way I did, there's this huge sense of like loyalty and that sort of thing, where you're supposed to be with someone no matter what they're going through and that sort of thing. And I've had situations where I've tried to be that for different people in my life, and it's like they're going a total different direction. I had a buddy who his thing was that he always wanted you to prove your loyalty through like he'd get us into fights with people. It's like, and that's one thing when we're like 16. It's like,
Right.
dude, we're 30. Like, I'm not fighting anybody for you. I got a kid.
Right.
Like, I'm
Right.
sorry.
I'm
Like, you
over
got to go
this.
your own way, buddy.
Totally.
And yeah, but it's interesting to kind of see uh, basically that coming to grips with that and coming to peace with that. I think that is a great piece. Um, so I want to move us into more of what you're doing now. So
Sure.
if I think when I initially posted about our conversation, I basically just took a snippet of like 9 things that we talked about, but I want you to go ahead and describe, what are you doing now? What projects are you working on? What does the current Hallie look like?
So right now I am building out my library of online courses. That is
Hmm.
my main intention. So
Hmm.
there's a signature course that I offer. It's called I Am Limitless.
Hmm.
And I offer it as a live experience, and it will soon also be offered as a pre-recorded experience. So that's what I'm building out right now, is doing more or getting the pre-recorded stuff in my library. I also run a Facebook community for women. So any women that are watching, if you're interested in joining, you may join us. It's called the Sassy Woman Sisterhood. And
Oh,
that community is almost 1,700 women strong. And it's a fabulous community of women that come together with the intention of practicing self-care, self-love, understanding, in community with other women that really just want to be real and authentic, and
mhm.
also having fun and talking about sassy girl stuff. So that's super fun. Um,
That's
I run
beautiful.
my yeah, it's a good space. I run my podcast like you mentioned, so I do
Hmm.
interviews similar to this, and I do I do a video component and an audio component
Oh,
as well.
nice. Yep.
And oh, and then the last thing, I'm sure there's more, but I also want to say I have my affirmation cards.
There you
So
go.
I have a deck of affirmation cards that I just released about a month ago. So those are super
Hallie,
fun.
what's an affirmation card?
Good question, Kelly. So an affirmation, if someone isn't familiar, is typically a statement that starts with the words I am. And it's a
Hmm.
positive statement in the first person to help get you into a space of alignment, of positivity, of
Hmm.
motivation. So these don't all start with I am, but you can see they're all colorful. So I'll draw one real quick as an example, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite ones. I embrace the fun in life and dance like no one's watching.
Nice.
Do you like to dance, Kelly?
I do not. I
What?
always feel like someone's watching because my dancing is so awful.
Do you like to listen to music?
I do. I do. I can definitely do
Awesome.
that.
Awesome.
Anything where I don't have to physically get on that dance floor, I'm down
That's
for it.
well, that's okay. You can just have a dance party in your mind. How's that?
That's more like a very Kelly thing right there.
Perfect. But right? So, you pull a card like this and you might be like, "Okay, I'm not really a dancer, but I can imagine what it's like to dance like no one's watching."
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
this moves you into that space. So,
Mhm.
that's what the beauty of affirmation cards are about.
Mhm. I appreciate that too because um I don't know, probably most of the people who are watching, most anyone who's ever talked to me is going to have the realization that I am always thinking about how to be better for me. And then also, how can I reflect that for other people
Right?
to help them to be better? So when I think about that, something like affirmation cards, something like positive affirmations for ourselves, it's always on the mind. So I think that that is a beautiful thing, Hallie, that you put together.
Thank you.
Also, before I forget, we're only about halfway through. I want to make sure if you can, after this, I'm going to drop this into LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube. Drop your links in there so that people can
Okay.
see your stuff. And then that way they can always follow up with you.
Perfect. I will absolutely do that. Thank you.
So now, as we're moving into uh, Hallie 2.0, or who knows which version you're at now, what are your challenges now? What are you finding right now as you kind of gone on in this journey of like self discovery and personal development?
Something that I've been really working with for myself at this level, like you said, kind of the 2.0, right? It's like you get yourself healthy, you get yourself happy, you get yourself authentic, and then you're like, how do I level up? How do
Mm,
I find that clarity? How do I really stand in my purpose and make sure that I am in alignment with
mm-hmm,
the people
mm-hmm,
I surround myself with and the actions that I take on a regular basis? So, something that I have personally struggled with for probably my entire life is taking on more than I can handle, like
mm,
biting off more than you can chew, right? That's the expression.
mm-hmm,
And a lot of times, the reason that I do that is because it distracts me from really being mindful of what is most important in the present moment.
mm,
So, the biggest thing that I'm working on right now are things where I really spend time to go inward. For example, I do a meditation every day and I take time to take walks by myself.
mm,
And I think about what really lights me up, what makes me feel good, who makes me feel good, so that I can get that clarity that I know that I need to
mm.
be the best version of me.
I find it interesting in the sense that when you're talking about like some of the stuff I know we've talked about is the fact that a lot of women do feel this almost separation from their full selves, from being their whole selves and showing up authentically and showing up period in a lot of cases.
Yep.
Who starts that? Why is that the case for so many women?
I mean, there's a lot of reasons, right? I think there's
Hmm.
a lot of stories that we have been told, and we being the collective women community, etc. Stories that, we need to nurture. We need to raise a family. We need
Hmm.
to be quiet. We can't take up space. We have to do for others. So overcoming those stories and those narratives for some women can be really challenging. And there are some bold women out there, but we've all heard this talk, and I do think it's shifting, but it's still there. A woman that is bold and that takes action and that might be perceived as more aggressive,
Hmm.
right? She's seen as an aggressor. She's called names, right? And she
Hmm.
may not be celebrated and honored as someone that's ambitious or that's
Sure.
empowered. She might be, seen, oh, can you believe that she did that? She's so self-centered. She's so
Hmm.
egotistical. She's such a bitch, right?
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
need to change that story, that we can celebrate each other, we can collaborate with each other, we can cheer each other on, and because another woman has success doesn't take away from my potential success and vice versa.
I feel like that's a huge piece because there's so many of us there's so many people I think that go through this idea of if I'm moving up, it has to be on your back or something like that. So I've personally witnessed this, and my wife and I talk about this a lot in woman's world, where there is a sense of cattiness or competition, where there should be more of a sense of collective growth and nurturing each other and that sort of thing. Now, but let me ask you now, because you mentioned a couple of things. Is it and this is just for clarity's sake. I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to say to this. The story for women is that you're supposed to be nurturing. Is it still okay for a woman to be nurturing?
I believe it is.
Okay. Okay.
And I think, you know, for example, I like I said, I have 3 kids, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm home with them. I homeschool them. I also run my business. I love being a mom.
Hmm. Hmm.
And when I'm in my mom space and having fun with my kids, it's awesome. But I'm not your kind of typical mom. I don't know, typical is not the right word. I'm not the mom that's out there, making Play-Doh for her kids
Hmm.
and, planning like the perfect lunch menu and this sort of thing. And that's totally fine. I show up as a mom for my kids in the way that works for me. And when I
Hmm.
see other moms that do like to do those things, make like really cute little bento box lunches or,
Yeah.
plan the perfect party or get down and play hide and seek with their kids, whatever, like that's all great. So I think whatever feels good to you in your heart, that's what's important. So whatever that looks like from a nurturing perspective, that's awesome. And it's just you have to do it as long as it's what's true to you.
Gotcha. And see, I wanted to make sure that we were able to shine a little bit of light on that, because I think there's sort of a misconception, and I don't know if this is no, this goes across different this goes across genders, races, ages, everything. There seems to be this sort of idea of the 180 rule, where you have to go 180 against everything. So if there's a sense that women are nurturers, then now you have to be hard or cold or that sort of thing. If there's a sense that women are supposed to be moms or wives, then it's like, well, I'll never get married, I'll never have kids. And it's
Right.
like, no, it shouldn't be that. It's really more about, you have the freedom to pick your lane and feel full and complete in that lane. So no, you don't have to get married, but no, you're not there's nothing wrong with you if you don't get married. So I just want to
Exactly.
make sure that, yeah, from such a revolutionary mind like yourself, I wanted to make sure that I was able to get that clarified with you to make sure it was okay. So, ladies, you've all heard it now. Hallie did say it was
Massive
okay.
permission.
You have permission.
Well, but
Uh,
here's the other point that I want to make
yeah.
is that I believe that women can be multi-passionate.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I can be just as passionate about my business, about
Hmm.
making $1 million and about having hot sex with my husband as I can be about nurturing my children and being a damn good mom. And I do not have to choose.
Gosh, I love that. I love that. Especially being a married person, I really love that all of those are encompassed in that, because all of those work for me.
Yeah.
Um, like
I think I
like
know which one worked the best.
the $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. Totally.
Uh, so okay, so now as we're kind of moving through this thing, I want to make sure that we get uh, a little bit of insight on, so some of the stuff we talked about, right? We kind of talked about, hey, that this is a place where women need to show up, where women are basically, have been at least, told to be quiet and that sort of thing. So I think it's fair to say that in a lot of cases, at least, this has come from a male dominated society. But I remember bringing up to you that I've heard this story probably from women a lot more than men. A lot of women telling other women, "Hey, this is the way that things are." So can you kind of speak to that? Like, how do you? uh, I've had in my personal life, I've had women who have been told by their mothers, "Hey, this is the way things are," and these are like super limiting beliefs. I won't go into all of them, but there's very limiting beliefs. I've heard more women talk about this than I have men. How do you get the women to get past that?
I mean, with any limiting beliefs, I think you have to go down to what's the trigger? What is the story? Why is it there?
Mhm.
What is causing the pain of that limiting? And you have to unpack it a little bit. And then you have to say, look, I'm choose, am I going to let that belief really get into the way of what I believe? Or
Mhm.
am I going to work through it and believe I can do anything that I want to do? So the thing about imposter syndrome or limiting beliefs is, we really have to acknowledge where it comes from. And then we have to own our truth by
Mhm.
understanding that we can make that change if we want to, but we have to put in the
Mm.
work.
All right, so now I can see that working on a personal level. So if I'm working with a client, I can say, let's unpack this. But um, there's a generation of women out there who are telling their daughters, hey, it's okay if your man cheats on you as long as he brings home the bacon. There's a generation of women who are saying things like that that I wouldn't want my daughter to hear. I wouldn't want my sister to
Sure,
live by.
sure.
But so on a and this is you getting a little philosophical and everything, kind of throwing it out there. How do you change that societally? How do we as individuals make some sort of change with something that is so big and so deeply embedded?
I mean, when you have a collective change that you're looking to make, it has to start with one person, right?
Mm,
You can only work on you. So
mm-hmm,
if there's this collective story that's being told that says, it's okay if your husband cheats on you and you just have to deal with it.
mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say, no, that's not cool. You got to have more self respect. You got to have
That's
more
not okay.
self-respect. Now let's just be clear. These things happen, right? Just
Yeah,
because someone
yeah,
cheats or
yeah, yeah.
has an infidelity situation doesn't mean that they're a terrible person. Shit happens, life happens,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. You can work through it. However,
Right.
you got to have the self-respect to deal with it and have those conversations and figure out what's
Mm-hmm.
really happening. But look, with our daughters, I've got a daughter and she's 10. There's a lot of fundamental development that happens between ages 7 and 10, especially for girls. And
Mm,
the beliefs and the core values and what goes on in our subconscious is developed at
mm-hmm.
this point in time. So all I can do is work on how I communicate with my daughter, how I teach her, how I lead by example, how I show up for myself as a grown woman, how she sees me interact with my husband, with my sons,
Mm-hmm.
with my
Mm-hmm.
friends, with her, etc. Right? So part of my mission is teaching other women to have this self-awareness and self-respect and the communication skills so that they can start to make the impact because it will trickle down. The more
Mm,
of us that understand it, that will trickle down to
right.
the future generations.
Okay. Okay. I like that. Now, when you're working with women in your practice,
Mhm.
how are you dealing with them? Well, first off, let me ask, what are the main issues you're seeing? Like, are they similar to the ones you brought up for you, or what are you seeing in general?
I see a lot of women who struggle with taking care of themselves, a lot of self care and self love issues, a lot of struggle being able to prioritize their own needs,
Mm,
a lot of struggle communicating needs. Also, the self awareness. Awareness is huge. And I think that it's probably true for men too, but just being
yeah.
able
Yeah.
to be that aware so that they even understand where the limiting beliefs and where the guilt and where the doubt comes from. So,
Mm,
unpacking those truths and understanding what is this about and how do I start to shift that energy? How do I raise my vibrations? How do I
mm-hmm,
show up even stronger and brighter in my life? And these are the kind of challenges that I deal with the women that I work with. And I see them struggling, but they're inquisitive and they want to make a change. And that's what gets me really excited is when they say, look, I recognize in myself this is an issue that I've got to work on, but I'm
yeah.
seeking the help because I see how powerful it can be. And
Hmm.
that's what I get excited about.
Well, that makes sense. I love that part too because as much as it's altruism and this sense of purpose, there is a selfish part of it that you really want to see people be better, and that helps like that restores my own faith in humanity when I see people able to change, especially you know with the world is as it is today. It's really nice to see that things can be different and people can be different. um, what about the so you talk about the self-care. Are you teaching them to be more fit, or how does that run? Because obviously you can have your mindset be better, but if you lack energy because you're not sleeping well, because you're not exercising, like all of it runs together. So how
Totally.
encompassing is what you're helping people with, helping women specifically with?
Well, when I teach about self care, I talk about alignment with core values.
Okay.
And it
Okay.
starts with understanding what are your core values. And of course, for each person, that's going to be different. But when
Hmm.
it comes to self care, yes, there is a physical fitness component, there is a stress management component,
Right.
there was a
Right.
sleep component, right? All of these things are important. So that's good for your overall health. But
Right.
it starts with understanding what are my core values. And if I can understand what my core values are and how I can be in alignment with them both in thought and in action
Hmm.
throughout the day. And then I teach them habits and intentions so that they can act in a way that promotes their self care in ways that are simple, sustainable, and fun. And that's really, really key to the work that I do, especially the fun part. Because if we're not having fun, then what's the point, right? Life is
That's
too
right.
short. We don't need to be so serious all the time. And that's why I talk about being sassy and having fun because I want women to show up in their life and be like, I rock. My life is super fun and I'm having a blast. And it doesn't have to be 100% of the time, but like a good
Yeah.
chunk of the time, I want them having fun because they're going to be happier, healthier, in better mindset, taking care of themselves better, sleeping better, lower stress, all of it.
Mm. I love all of that. Um, so without giving too much away, how do you approach how would you recommend we got a good sized audience today. How would you recommend they get started understanding their core values?
Well, that's a great question. So I really recommend journaling, number one, and spending some time just being with yourself. So, a
Mm,
quick exercise that somebody could do to just start to ask themselves the question, what are my core values? Take, I love to do, I don't know if you're familiar with breath work, but one of my
mm-mm.
favorite breathing techniques is the 4-7-8 breath. Are you familiar with that one?
No.
Okay, it's a really good clearing one just to kind of get yourself into like a good
Yeah, let's
headspace
do it.
before you do any work. Okay, so we're going to do an inhale for 4, then we're going to hold for 7, and then we're going to exhale for 8. And if you want to close your eyes, you can. You can put your hands on your belly, over your face, whatever feels comfortable. So we're going to go and inhale for 4.
Oh wait, I was already inhaling. Okay, sorry.
Okay, inhale for 4.
Okay.
Here we go. Hold it for 7 and exhale 8. So if you do that 4 times,
Mm,
the 4-7-8 breath 4 times, it's just a really great way to center and to get clear. Once you've done that, just close your eyes for maybe a minute, maybe 2 minutes, and
mhm,
just sit with yourself and just ask yourself in your head, what is important to me?
mm,
And that's it, just in silence. And then after a minute or two, open your eyes and have a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil in front of you and write down everything that's important to you, all of
mm,
your values. Write them down. And then you go back over that list, however many you come up with, it doesn't matter. And you go back over that list and you say, okay, which of these things are the ones that are essential as
mm,
opposed to like the nice to have? So it's like the need to have and the nice to have list.
mhm,
And you go through the first pass and you write down all the need to have ones. And
mm.
then you see how many you have. And if you have more than 3 or 4, go through it again until you whittle it down to 3 or 4. And then that's what your core values. So that's like a really quick exercise without getting too in depth, but a pretty good one to just get started to identify what your core values might be.
I think that is awesome. Uh, so I wanna go over some of the foundational pieces that we've kind of picked up from you so far. So, guys,
Yeah.
if you're ready, take some notes on this. Um, one of the things that you noticed initially was that you didn't feel like you were fully showing up. And guys, that means that if you don't feel like you're fully showing up, like you're really being your real true self, if you don't feel like you're able to really be all of who you are, uh, that's the case. That's the time you should start to take notice. You should start asking questions. You should start trying to figure out what's going on. Hallie's going to put her information in right after our broadcast. I would say you can definitely reach out to her and
Yes,
she'd be happy
please.
to help you out with that too.
Absolutely.
One of the things I've also picked up from you, Hallie, is that it takes a measure of courage to say, I know that stuff is happening. Like even before you get to that aha moment, you and your husband, you're working on your marriage, you're working on yourself. So even though it took a while to get to a plateau, it looks to be the case that you guys are already working. So I would say that foundational piece of having that courage to say, something's not right. I'm actually going to take action versus what we talk about a lot of times is people just kind of ducking their head between their legs and with tail between their legs and saying, I'm going to just let it happen. I'm just going to let life go. These are things that I'm picking up from your story, Hallie, that kind of say these are things that you've done or ways that you are that kind of help to kind of lead you on this journey. What can you add to that? What are some things that we need to know about you, or maybe not even about you, but just the traits that you have to pick up, um, the ways that you can kind of begin to become the person who can win in life by, owning their own life.
One of the biggest things when I think about winning at your own life is you really have to remember that you always have a choice. And I know you said this, Kelly. I know that this is something that you teach your
Very
clients,
central. Yeah,
and you have to know that you always have a choice. Now, we can also choose to ignore that choice. And
that's
then we
right.
have to be aware of that. And that can be hard to do. So it does take the courage. And I really appreciate, I know Jim Rohn is often accredited with saying, we are a product of the 5 people that we spend the most time with.
Mm,
So my amendment to that is that it's not necessarily 5 people, as in 5 individual people, but think about the 5 influences that
mm,
that you're surrounded with. So maybe it's your family, like your immediate family unit.
uh-huh, uh-huh,
Maybe it's your friends. Who are your key friends that are influencing your thoughts, your actions, your behaviors, your mindset? The media that you consume, social
yeah,
media, regular news media, etc. Surround yourself with positivity. Look, I tell my everybody that I can, I say, turn
yeah,
off the news. The news is
that's right.
toxic. It doesn't make us feel good. Find feel good things. So if you need to find a community of people that make you feel good, if you need to find a Facebook group, if you need to be part of a LinkedIn community, if you need to
That's
find a
right.
meetup group, right? There's all these ways that we can positively impact ourselves by
Hmm.
choosing to surround ourselves with 5 influences that really lift us up and make us feel good and affirm our choice to be the best version of ourselves and to win at everything that we do.
Oh man, that was so
Mic
beautiful.
drop.
Yeah, it's like I hate to even ask another question after that. I feel like we kind of finished it right there. That was all right, guys. It's been great. No, I want to ask you this because you're so introspective and you have such a good kind of grasp on plotting where you are in life, in your own life, in your own world, and in the world in general. I want to find out from you. Um, I'm always curious about the end game, right? So, Hallie Avolio, at the end of your days, when you're on your deathbed, how do you know that you've lived a good life? Like, what would your life have had to been for you to be like, man, this was it. I rocked it. This was great.
I mean, pretty much after we've done this show, Kelly, I'm good.
Yeah, well, I mean, this should be everyone's highlight, right? Hashtag
Uh,
sponsorship.
yeah, right. you
No,
know, here's the thing. None of us know how long we have on this earth, right? Like I would like to
hmm
live to be, 150 or 167 or some cool number like that, but we
hmm
really just don't know. So, look, I live my life the best way that I can every single day, but in if I am going to kind of measure my success in life and feeling like I've done my work and I've lived my purpose, it's
hmm
going to be number one, raising 3 conscious humans that live their best life and that are making
hmm
awesome choices for themselves. That's number one. Number two, it's impacting thousands of women and men to make better choices and be sassy as fuck.
hmm
Number three, it's going to be standing on a stage with Brene Brown and she's going to say that she is sassy as fuck. That's on my list.
It's on there, right?
It's on my list. Um, yeah, there we go. There we
I
go.
I I think that is such an awesome list. Brene, we call each other by first name. So
Yeah,
Brene and I,
I mean, she
we're
and I,
yeah, we're pretty tight. So I'll put in a good word. I'll see. I'll see if
thank
I
you.
can get you in
Perfect.
there. So Hallie, I want to Thank you so much. Obviously, I follow you because you're an inspiration to me, and I love your content and your daily morning uplifting words and everything. I I want to make sure everyone knows exactly how to reach you. So I know your Facebooking, your LinkedIn. Can you tell us all where to reach you?
Sure. So if you want to go to my website, it's sassyhealthy.fit. As Kelly said, I do something called the Morning Motivation Minute every single Monday through Friday morning. I post it on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and it might be on YouTube at some point in the future. Some of them are, but that's not consistent. So LinkedIn,
Right.
Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And like I said, I've got my podcast, which is called the Sassy AF Audio Experience on iTunes, Spotify, blah blah blah, all the places. And then I also do my interview show is on YouTube. It's just under Sassy Healthy Fit. You can find Sassy AF TV. And I'm always, always, always happy and welcome DMs. Please reach out to me. You can drop it in LinkedIn, on Instagram, wherever you like. My handle is usually at Sassy Healthy Fit, or on LinkedIn, it's just Hallie Avolio. But I absolutely love connecting with amazing humans. And if you are a follower, a friend, a fan of Kelly Blackman, who isn't, he's amazing.
Right.
Just
I'm going to
just
agree
make
with all
sure
of
you
that.
drop that in the comment or the DM to me so that you get the VIP Kelly treatment.
There you go. There you go. Um, Hallie, I want to thank you so much. You're so amazing. It's always fun every time we talk. Even when we're talking about the most outrageous stuff. You guys, just so you know, just a small nugget of information before we go.
Oh
Hallie's
no.
first kiss, 17 years old.
It's a true story. I know it's hard to believe with this beautiful mug.
That's right. That's right. Hard to believe, but yes, 17, and it wasn't her cousin. Just gonna throw that out there too.
Thank God. Kelly asks the most interesting questions. I have to say, he just drops them in a DM. It's like, hey, how's it going? By the way, how old are you when you had your first kiss?
Guys, I want you to know that
I
was
love
also
it.
not a creepy question. It was really just because I wanted to have at least one thing to drop in the last minute
I
of our
love
show.
it. I love it, dude. It's so fun. You're so fun. I'm so appreciative to be here. It's super fun.
Well, again, Hallie, thank you so much for being on the show. I imagine that it'll be a lot of time of us working together because I am so enthusiastic about what you're doing.
Thank you.
Um,
Feeling is mutual.
Thank you so much. Audience, it's been great. Thank you guys for all the comments you dropped in. I love all of you guys because you really are kind of the lifeblood of the show. Hallie, were you able to see the comments?
I saw a couple, but honestly, it's on my phone and they were so small.
Okay.
Being 41, I'm like, I need glasses. I don't know what's happening here. So I'll go
That's
back and
okay.
read them. I will
Yeah.
go back and read them.
Yeah, and definitely after we drop this into LinkedIn and Facebook, Hallie, please feel free, jump in, leave us all your information because I'm sure you're gonna have a lot more people who want to meet and greet.
I would love it. I love all the meet and greets. Bring it on. And Brene, thank you for watching.
That's right, because she's on. She's
I
watching.
I
She's
know. I
watching.
know.
Probably under a
She's
student. She's
gonna she's
watching though.
gonna slide into my DMs, so it's all
Right.
good.
Like Kelly said, you get that VIP treatment.
That's
Uh,
right.
here, hang on for a second. I'm going to play us out with my cheesy outro,
I love
and I
it.
will talk to you backstage. Ta-da! Just feel like that never gets old.